Afternoon Tea by McManus. I wipe the condensation from the glass. The pale winter sun lingers between the rooftops. Smoke from just lit fires struggles upwards in the windless air. Although it is early autumn, the buds are already forming on the ash tree outside the window where I usually sit. They are holding their breath until spring. An ugly grey cat sits on a wall, furiously washing itself. It is having particular difficulty with one ear. A few schoolboys kick leaves, searching for chestnuts. When they find them, they tussle over who gets to keep them. Further along the street, 3 schoolgirls teeter along in ridiculous shoes and short, tight tartan skirts. All of them are smoking and giggling. A bus pulls up. 2 elderly women get off and cross the road towards the cafe. It is a quiet road where most of the once elegant houses have been turned into flats. Many of them are poorly kept, gardens neglected, or, worse still, concreted over to accommodate 2 or 3 cars. It is warm in the cafe. There are only 6 or 7 tables covered in floral oilcloth. A small fridge counter displays the cakes for which the cafe is famous. On top there is a willow basket holding the few remaining fruit scones. 2 loaves of brown bread are propped against the basket. Attached to the wall behind the counter are 6 bicycle baskets holding fruit, vegetables and fresh herbs. Other ingredients are stored on shelves over the sink. There are several jars of spices. A string of garlic hangs over the cooker. The owner, Mags, is here as usual. I've come to know her well over the last year or so. Like myself, she is a country girl who came to Dublin all excited about her first job. It was in a bank, and before a year was up, she knew it was not for her. She could tolerate the tedium of the routine, but the petty jealousies among the staff finally got to her. That and the style competitiveness among the younger women. Mags gave it up, went back to her home place in Roscommon and decided to train herself in cooking and baking. Now here she is back in Dublin running a successful cafe. Maybe I should have left my tedious work and embarked on a new career. Horticulture maybe. Something outdoors would have suited me way better. It is late afternoon, so only a few tables are taken up. The boiler hisses. Steam rises to condense on the ceiling. The aroma of coffee is comforting. 2 women, who could be sisters, are in animated conversation. A young man is engrossed in a book. I prefer being here in the winter. It seems wrong to be inside on summer days. I found the cafe by accident. Daydreaming on the bus one day, I went 2 stops past my usual stop. It had been raining. I entered the cafe for shelter rather than from any need for food or drink. That was the day I met Jem, exactly a year ago. The cafe was unusually crowded on that November day. I was about to leave when I spotted a table for 2 where a man was seated. I made my way over and asked would it be all right if I took the other seat. He politely stood up, smiled, and pulled out the chair. It is not my habit to speak to strange men, but the thought of facing out into the wet and windy weather without a comforting Americano gave me courage.
Well, they have a new improved version now, which is linked up to the internet.
He introduced himself as Jim, while I gave a false name, overly cautious you could say. He had been doing a crossword in the daily paper. I had a book in my bag, but felt it would be rude to take it out. When I suggested that he might like to continue with his crossword, he said he had only been doing it to pass the time. It was his first time in the cafe. He was unfamiliar with this side of the city, but had an appointment in the area, after which he decided to take a walk. Then came the rain. I told him that was exactly how I had found the place too. I ordered my Americano with hot milk and a cinnamon bun. There's something about the smell of cinnamon that goes with wintry days. Jim ordered another latte. I guessed him to be a little older than myself, maybe late 60s. Not what you'd call handsome, but rather attractive. Full head of greying hair, blue-green eyes, slim build. His accent not that of the city, maybe Cork or Kerry. He was relaxed while I felt myself a bit on edge, not sure what to talk about. I need not have worried, as Jim had a way with words. The weather, politics, life in the city, our conversation buzzed on for over an hour. Jim said he needed to go. By then, we had already agreed to meet the following week at the same time in the cafe. Over the winter months, we met every week. I looked forward to our meetings. It turned out we had many things in common. Like myself, he was indeed from the country, West Cork. I was from rural Mayo. He was a retired teacher, myself a retired civil servant. While we both had enjoyed city life, we were beginning to feel the pull back to the country. We agreed there were pros and cons, but also realised that, as one got older, the city seemed a less friendly place. We also knew we needed to move before it became too late to take on such an upheaval. And as neither of us was attached to anyone else, we were saved the problem of trying to come to an agreement with somebody else. Jim had already started to look for a place around Cork. So far, anything of interest was either beyond his budget or in such a dilapidated state that renovation was too much to take on. Me? I would head back to Mayo. So far, I had made no effort to do anything about it. Anyway, I had only retired a year and a half ago. Like, after a bereavement, they say, it's better not to make any major changes for at least a year. One of these days, I will make a start. Apart from our weekly meeting, Jim and I went to the theatre, the cinema, art galleries, hill walking. Yes, we had a lot in common. I had never been to his place, nor he to mine. We didn't have a sexual relationship, but none of our friends or families believed this. He lost his libido after prostate cancer. I never had much of it even in my young days. Jim was like the brother I never had. We were happy as we were. Today, Jim is late, most unlike him. He always arrives before me. I dial his number. This number is no longer in use, an automated voice tells me. I don't know where he lives, so there's nothing to do but take the bus home. As I leave, Mags follows me. Are you all right? She asks. Is Jim okay? I'm fine, I lie, as I make my way to the door. And Jim? He's fine too. Just something turned up. I step out into the darkening evening, knowing that I will never hear from Jim again.